Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PixcelCast. It is your boy Pixcelation, and we are here with I'm gonna call you ZuuS for this time for these purposes. But the YouTube
Sure.
channel is Bo. I know I mentioned your name to a friend, and without context, he immediately associated it with the Bo body odor, and I was like, that
Yep.
is pretty funny.
Yep.
But I'm sure
Yep.
you get that 20,000 times a day. So,
Yeah.
how you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We out here being busy and
Yeah.
packing up, getting ready for a big move. So
Oh yeah, see, that's why I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible, just because I know that I am, taking you away from that preparation. So, we're gonna do what we came here to do, and we ain't gonna dawdle. So, that being
sure.
said, just for the purposes of everybody in chat, we are there's a possibility that we are going to have some outages internet wise. We have just in the time it took for the 5 minute countdown, we've had two of them. I don't know if it's going to be a consistent thing, but if it is, just hold out. We will be back in just a few moments. So, but yeah, no, this is it's good to actually finally get to like chat, like sit down and chat with you, because like we've only briefly chatted like at the past two cons I've gone to, which was Anime Austin and IkiCon this past weekend.
For
Um,
sure.
and you were staff. You were on staff for IkiCon, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The so like, what did you obviously without indicting yourself, like what did you think about that?
Nah, man. I mean, I think on the outside, it was really good. Everyone seemed to be really enjoying the con. I was definitely the most important part, but I don't know, it was chaotic. I'm sure everything again. When you're dealing with the volunteers, you just run into a lot of issues with accountability and things like that, and things just don't get done because there's no real pressure. It's not like you can fire someone, but other than that, I mean, it went about as smooth as I would have expected it to go. But yeah,
Right.
definitely was chaotic and hectic, and people were scrambling for the whole weekend.
I
So
think that's just anime cons in general, but I think that like I don't want to like go too, like I said before, I don't want to go too deep into it here because I even though I have mostly good things to say, I just try to avoid talking on public about it at all,
for
just to
sure.
protect myself. But that being said, though, I think one thing that I can say for sure about this past weekend was that me and my crew all had probably the best con experience in a while. It was just a really solid experience, and even though turnout wasn't exactly turnout at my panels anyway wasn't exactly what I expected it would be, but that despite that, it was like there's like an energy, I guess,
For sure. Yeah.
that wasn't that I haven't really felt in a while. Um, but yeah, no. So yeah, but you were on staff, and I was on I had 8 panels that weekend, so we didn't really have a chance to really sit down. So I'm glad we're doing this now. Um, this was your second con ever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My first one was Anime Austin. I was pretty small, pretty chill, but
So
it
yeah,
tighten it.
I mentioned this off camera, but like this, what most people go to a few cons before they try jumping onto staff. So how exactly did that happen for you? You just chatted with someone at Anime Austin, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Chris Beckham was the uh, vice chairman of IkiCon, and he was there representing IkiCon at Anime Austin. And so I had just been, I can't remember his name. The guy who hosted the what's your favorite OP, or what's your favorite anime character says about you at Anime Austin.
Ollie
I
Darwich, yeah.
initially had started to talk to him, just because the same guy who came in and gifted at your guess the ED panel.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that guy. Yeah, I got pretty friendly with him at Anime Austin because he was talking about how he went to school for recording. He was in school for recording technology and stuff like that, and I went to college up in Nashville for audio engineering. So we started talking a lot about that, and then he kind of introduced me to Chris, saying hey, well, they're looking for volunteers and stuff, and I have experience in touring and the event industry outside of conventions, with mainly music and festivals and stuff like that. So I ended up talking to Chris basically all weekend, and you know like basically he just said, you sign up for a volunteer spot, I'm going to guarantee you that you're on, have a position there, because we need we need that area of stuff covered. So, I signed up. I was just like, I'd be happy to help out. So, for sure.
There you go. Yeah, because I was surprised because I remember I can't remember what day I saw you. I think it was Friday. I ran into you, and I was just like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And you're like, "Oh, by the way, I'm Steph," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was great too because like admittedly we did have a little bit of AV issues, but it's one of those things where like it got to the point where whenever I had AV issues, I knew that if I saw you around, I knew we were probably going to be fixed because you had a handle on it, and that was good.
Yeah.
But either way, regardless of anything. So I make a habit of starting every episode off with one of the easiest questions that I can ask you, and that is, in your own words, who are you?
That's not an easy question, bro.
Yes,
That is like, dude, I spend so much time asking myself that question. That's what I fall asleep to, just pondering. Like,
it's
what am I?
philosophical,
Do I even exist? Like, yeah, that's a doozy right there. I don't know, man. I like to think I'm just like a chill dude, likes to make music, kind of floating his way through. I'm taking a job with Sweetwater Sound for sales up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So, I've always just really liked music. I like anime quite a bit. It's like I like cars. I have a wide range of hobbies and things like that. And as long as I'm able to have fun talking about those with people or experiencing those, like that's usually all I can ask for. And being rich would be pretty chill, but
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. I don't. I used to have the desire to like make money doing this kind of thing, and I still do to a degree. But like it's stopped being something that I've ever expected. Like last year I got my
yeah,
first ever Twitch payout. And I was just like, "Oh, that's neat," but I don't like expect it anymore. So it's just like,
for
okay,
sure.
kind of like whenever I first started streaming and I got affiliate, I was like, okay, this is the limit. This is where this is where I draw the line. I will never be partner, and it's mostly just because I don't want to stream that much. Like I acknowledge that to be partner, you gotta stream like your life depends on it. You gotta be like Hasanabi streaming. You gotta be like 24/7, all and sleep for 5 hours and then go back to it, and I'm just not capable of that.
Yeah.
I'm barely capable of making YouTube videos at this point. But that actually that's a good segue to so I obviously I met you before I listened to your music, and I 100%, full disclosure, I wasn't really sure what to expect when you told me that you were tell me about the villain vibes. You were like a runner up, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah. I was a Emily or Monarch or however other names that she goes by in Mori Calliope. They had like a cover contest for one of the songs they had collabed on, and yeah, we got a runner-up spot on that song. It was pretty chill. I enjoyed working on it. I did a huge like genre flip on the song, like very inspired by like Yoasobi and Zutomayo and stuff like that. A lot of those like J-rock, J-pop kind of influences and stuff. So
Right.
that was
Yeah.
definitely like the big break, because to this day it still is like the only video I have that's like over 5K views.
Well, yeah, and that's also interesting because it is that it's a really because like I actually haven't heard that one yet, but I know that I have uh the one that I have kind of fallen in love with over the last 2 months or so was your cover of "I Really Want to Stay at Your House" from Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Is actually the reason why I binged that show, because I was listening to it and I saw that you had an AMV to it, and I refused to watch the AMV. I had it over in the corner. I was just listening to the song, and I was like, okay, I need to watch this show so I can see what you did with the AMV, and I loved it. It was great. It was it's probably my anime of the year last year, because it was just, of all the shows I watch, aside from Chainsaw Man anyway, it was the most well made in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
And it actually it did something. It did the unthinkable. It made me want to buy Cyberpunk 2077, which I did, and I have not played it yet. But it's one of those things where like I was sitting there like, oh man, I really want to play this game now, even though I know it's a freaking disaster. But the one thing that I definitely want to applaud you on is just how, like, because you did everything in that song, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, what, like, would you say, at least in terms of this song, and maybe you could even talk about, generally, your music career, but like, what what inspires you to cover that particular song in that way? Because it's a different style than the original version, and I would argue it's probably a better style because the original version had to grow on me, in that I didn't want to listen to it at first because it was just like it was just very hard to listen to until I got used to it. But I was expecting more along the lines of your version when I listened to the actual version. So like, what particular inspirations did you have to do it in that style? And like was there any other just generally talk about your inspirations with that song?
Yeah, I think with that song in particular, like I definitely still tried to keep a little bit of that like J-rock influence in there, specifically with like those lead guitar lines. That's like a huge thing, kind of envisioning it as like some kind of anime opening or something like that. But I think like more so just like on that end, especially with that song, like part of my philosophy with like you won't see it as much on the the Bow channel or the Brandon O's. I've renamed it recently after getting confronted about the body odor jokes. um, yeah, like a lot of the music that I made like in college with my band that lasted for a very short time, and that I still have been trying to work on stuff that's more contemporary music. It's not really is focused on being cover material or electronic music or something that's like like what you would generally consider YouTube music. More stuff that's actually marketable to like be on a Spotify playlist and be heard on radio plays and stuff like that. Is I went to Belmont, which is it's a private Christian school, but it's got a huge reputation for being a music centric school, being in Nashville. And you see so many artists there that are just like so focused on being unique and different and calling things jazzy when they're not really jazzy, and like, oh man, I threw in like my seventh and ninth chords and I'm using my major seconds and my minor seconds and like all my modulations, and I'm gonna be unique and the new big thing and whatever. It's like I kind of just like had this craving for just like digestible music, just music that's like easy to listen to, that's fun to listen to, that's like actually enjoyable, that people would want to like continually listen to, not to like trip out their brain with like how musical it is, just to be like, this is just a groove, this is a jam. And so a lot of the music I make, yes, it has like some of those J-rock influences, but at the same time I really want to kind of keep that root of like digestible music and making it like easy to listen to. And so that's a lot of the vibe I was going for with that song, is that like my power alley for music is just like pop rock and that more like alternative rock stuff. So it makes it really easy to kind of sit down and just kind of like, covers are a lot easier for me because you already have like your melody right there and you can modify it a little bit, but you already have the bass line of the song there and you're just modifying it to making it the way you would envision the song. So that's kind of like my process with that song. Was I listened to the song and I actually really do enjoy the original song. I think it's a really cool and wacky song.
Right.
But when I listen to it, I'm just like, man, this would really groove if it like was a little faster tempo. If it like was like there, I envision it kind of like other Netflix shows that aren't necessarily anime, where they have like different variations of the same song. It's like thinking of it as like a motif, and so like you still have that theme, but this is like the battle song or like the ending song versus like the sad and down tempo song. So
Right.
that was kind of the way I approached that song mostly.
That's really interesting because it kind of makes me think, because one of the things that I've been wanting to do in kind of my artistic evolution, I've never really been a bit big on the actual creation of music. I was in band for years, but like beyond that, I haven't like done any like actual creation of music, because it's always one of those things where there's a block in my head where it's like I'm afraid like my inspirations are just gonna leak into it, and I'm just gonna copy them essentially. The idea of like making something from well, I won't say making something from nothing, because it's not making something from nothing, but like making something original without just doing what other people have done. It's hard for me to conceptualize, I guess. Maybe it's because I don't have like a grasp on like music theory or but it's really interesting hearing you talk about it, though, because it's one of those things where I am like, there's so much to it that like I have never even breached, and I just find it really fascinating. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, and like to be clear, I do love the original now too. I just
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where at first I was like, especially when it gets to the I think I call it the chorus. It's probably not the actual chorus, but like when the robot voice comes in, like
Oh
the
yeah, for
robotic voice,
sure.
like it's one of those things where I was like, this is really hard to listen to a little bit to a degree, but the
Yeah,
more like
I love vocoders. I grew up on like Daft Punk and Kraftwerk, so like
that, yeah, that checks out.
that's like down my alley.
Yeah, and but yeah, like I said, the more I listened to it, the more I started to associate it with the show and with the plot, and I started being like, I can't hear this anymore without crying. Just because, like, yeah, no, that show was just beautiful. I
Yeah.
don't know. Kickson wants to know: is your music on Spotify or Apple Music?
Currently I've only got one song from my solo project, formerly band, called Leica on Spotify. It's called Space Odyssey. I'm actually in the process of moving the Bow content onto Spotify as well. Some of it's a little tricky because a lot of the like electronic music I did on Spotify is like heavily sampled, and I'm too lazy to acquire like performance rights for that and
Right.
all the sync licenses and all that stuff that I would need to do. So some of that will probably just go on SoundCloud or something. So if, like, if it gets taken down, it gets taken down, whatever. But yeah, I for sure will be putting, like, I've again, like, it's just been something that I just am lazy and terrible at marketing. But hopefully in the near future, within a couple weeks here, should see both the Villain Vibes cover and the Really Want to Stay at Your House cover on Spotify for sure.
Sounds perfect. Yeah, I would love to add that to the Cloister playlist that I have. For those of you who are watching who don't know, I have a Discord community and Facebook group called the Cloister of Weebs. Bo is actually a member of that community, and it's one of the things that I was like sharing the cover around everywhere that I could whenever I found it, because I was like, I want to start sharing stuff made by the Cloister. But the yeah, no, we have a Spotify playlist that I basically I'll update every season, or every time. Really, not every season. It's more like every time I think about doing it, I just add a bunch of
Yep.
songs to it. And I will definitely add that to the playlist whenever that is on Spotify. So let me know whenever you get that up there, and I will do that.
For
But
sure.
yeah. So in terms of musicianship and performance, can you tell me, like, this might be something that I should have asked earlier, but it's perfect timing. Were there any like specific inspirations that you in the beginnings of your craft? Like, basically tell me your story of getting into music, and like
Oh yeah.
what caused you to take this step for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my mom has been, she went to school for uh, music education, and then her grad degree was in like choral direction and stuff like that. And so she's been the biggest source of like music in my life from the beginning. Grew up taking piano lessons, and then middle school came, and I started on French horn, and then I quit that like seventh grade and moved over to orchestra because I didn't want to. At that time, they were making you take both your electives for band. I was like, I want another elective, so I went over to orchestra. Ended up on the cello over there. Stayed with cello all the way through high school. About my sophomore year of high school, started playing guitar, picking that up. Started picking up other instruments, kind of more the traditional band instruments you see today. Um, I initially went to Belmont on a cello performance degree, and within a semester I changed over to audio engineering because I was not down for like 9 hours of cello lessons a week, and all the juries and everything you had to do in music school. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like I loved my theory classes and stuff like that, but like just having to stick with an instrument that hardcore that I wasn't entirely passionate about to begin with, and I didn't go out of my way to like listen to classical music a whole lot outside of what I was required to learn. So yeah, I think like the beginnings when I started really getting into music production, that was like in high school. I like downloaded a pirated copy of Fruity Loops and started screwing around on it, and you know, if you like, I think I still got some Google Drive files down in there buried. It's just like I would like, I think like Swedish House Mafia had that like Save the World song at that time. I like just did like the shittiest fucking like little piano cover of it or whatever, just like writing out the MIDI notes and everything. But I've always had like a really good ear. Like I play a lot of stuff by ear, and I'm not the strongest like music reader as much as I am at just like hearing things and like music dictation and stuff like that. So it was like a good test of just like being able to pick out all the individual parts and start layering them in. And that's when I really fell in love with like music production and stuff like that. Of just kind of like, oh well, here's these different layers of the instruments, and here's like that's the bass line right there, that's the drum part, and what can I pick out and what can I take from that to make my own and stuff like that. Um, Musical inspirations for me, like I listen to a lot of different genres, but I think when it came to originally starting making music, the band I'd been listening to a lot was the 1975 and like their first album, that kind of just indie rock, sounds exactly like what you'd hear at like H&M or Urban Outfitters kind of stuff.
Right.
A lot of that was like the big inspiration. A band right now that I've like been digging that my friends in college introduced me to. They're Nashville local and they're growing every day. Is the band Camino. I'm a huge fan of them. They've got some really cool guitar tones and stuff that they do. I listen to a lot of like solo guitarists like Mateus Asado, and then I also listen to a lot of Polyphia, just like all over the place. And then when it comes to like the Japanese side of things, like I've been a huge fan of like Yorushika, Yoasobi, Zutamayo. I listen to a lot of like anime. I will like honestly say that probably 75% of anime I've started watching was because like I heard the OP on YouTube. I was like, that's like a banger song. And then like most of the time you watch the show and you're like, oh, this is a shitty show. But like, hey, at least the OP is amazing. I mean, like SAO, I'm looking at you, like heard the OP, like fell in love with Lisa. Was like, damn, this show's like gonna be fire. And then you like get through the halfway through the first season, you're like, damn, this show is not fire.
It was ice, if anything.
But yeah, that's like just I think like part of it is just like especially like when you get to the stuff that I'm trying to do, like just always being open to listening to new things and like a bunch of new material and just always consuming more music is just the way I've always kind of had a reference to different things. So immediately I'm like, oh, I want to sound like this artist and this part and this artist and this part. I can just like pick out like, oh, that's that tone, that's that, bass line, that's that interval they like to use, that's that drum sound they like to use, that's whatever, it's just always a ever growing expansion of knowledge, as Ty Lopez would hopefully say to me.
Jeez, I forgot about that guy. Ever since he did you hear he actually bought the rights to Radio Shack?
Yeah, I did.
And he turned it into a crypto sync, and it's like, all right, I guess that's the thing that you do with knowledge. I don't know. But yeah, no. I totally get what you mean when you say talking about the OPs. Something that I am not hiding at all about during my videos is that I will watch anime strictly because the OP was fire, and I've found some of the best anime that I've seen that way, but I've also found some terrible shows just off that. Because it's one of those things where it's like. I don't know. Like, do you ever? How do I explain this? It's hard to explain because it's like it's a thing that I know that a lot of creative people do, but like, where you will listen to music and you'll like, either you can close your eyes and you imagine like an AMV or an anime opening with like either your characters or your favorite show. Do you ever do that?
Damn, I wish I was that creative. No, I mean like I can like probably like Microsoft Paint edition that maybe in my head, but no, I'm when it comes to like the like fine arts as far as like hand painted or like drawn and stuff like that, like I am so like lost. I'm so bad at artwork. I like failed elementary art. Like it's pretty bad how bad I am at it. So I'm like not super visually imaginative. Like I mean maybe like more so to the fact of like I can kind of already start picturing some kind of like script or outline to what that would be, like I definitely I'm good at like thematically assigning like an overall message or a plot line or something, like I use the example in the panel that I hosted at IkiCon that was also unfortunately without AV, so
Oh,
defeated a lot of the purpose. But I kind of used like that example of like the multi-track session I had for them to lay out like an original creation of some kind of anime opening. It's like I imagine this is like Naruto on steroids, basically. Just think of it like this is the main character like fighting the big bad enemy. This is like the part where like it's the sad like you know, like cinematic shot of like the best friend like looking at him down on the ground or something like that. The best friend walking away. And it's like these are the parts there. So like I am definitely can like kind of picture that a little bit, but yeah, I'm definitely not super creative when it comes to like visual art in that sense.
right. No, that's fair. It's one of those. It's a situation where like I'll just be having conversations with someone and they'll tell me this and I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm not the only one who's had this happen. Where like it's like sometimes I'll just be legitimately even when I'm listening to your cover of Everyone Stay at Your House, that cover, any cover, that song in general, but still, like, I'll be listening to it, and I'll close my eyes, especially with now that I'm, like, working on my game, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll, like, set, in my own head, I will set, like, a whole-ass anime opening, to this song, and it's one of those things, like, especially more recently, there's another cover of that song that I've heard. I don't know. Have you ever heard of a YouTuber, Ty McGrath?
Yeah, for sure. Is
The
he the one that did like the kind of like J-Rock synthwavy cover that he did?
I think so.
Like,
Yeah, like, it was.
yeah.
Like, he doesn't like more recent. I think. I mean, I can't tell what video he did that's the most popular, but anyway, he did one that was the Chainsaw Man opening that was like kind of salsa.
Oh,
Because
okay. No way.
surprisingly, when you like strip that song down to its
Mm-hmm.
bare essentials, it's a salsa song, and it's like, wait, hold on, Japanese salsa, I'm down. What's up? But yeah, no, he did a cover of that, and it's more of a I would say he did it's more of a heavy rock version, I would think.
Gotcha, for sure.
And like it was one of those things where like I had never heard it before, and then it came on Spotify, and I was like, oh shit, okay. But it's a situation where I would like, in my head as I was driving, I was like, I know this is probably dangerous, but like when I'm driving, I'll be brainstorming and like kind of, I won't say daydreaming because that sounds irresponsible, but it's like, it's like, you have just
Yeah, I
enough.
just like close my eyes and put the pedal to the metal and just like
Jesus, take the
yeah.
wheel. No, where you have just enough concentration on the road so you can avoid dying, but you also are
Mm-hmm.
like part of your brain is like, oh, this would be cool if it did this, that this is, and and no, it just happens. At this point, I can't turn it off, and sometimes it's a nuisance because I'm just like, what the fuck? I just want to listen to music. I don't want to do this right now. But
For sure.
that being said, Yumi Blicky says I don't even do creative work, and I get the whole imagining an AMV from hearing this cool song. Yeah, right. No, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of people, and it makes sense that you wouldn't, because you said you're more of a you're less of a visual creative person and more of an audio,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that like part of it helps that like I'm the kind of creative person where like I can imagine anything, but translating it to paper is impossible. I had to, like I'm working on, like I said, I'm working on my game, and I hired one of my friends to be the artist, and without her help getting that done, I wouldn't have a game. I wouldn't be able to
For
do it,
sure.
and it's just because like when it comes to writing, I can do that. When it comes to like, I kind of have a taste for like voice casting and stuff. I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but like in terms of the creation of the music, creation of the art, I just can't do it. It's just there's this block, and it's like I can imagine like this really awesome fight scene. It will come out looking like Pop Team Epic at the end of the day. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but that style is that's my limit,
I draw the line at like stick figures
Right?
mainly.
Yeah, it's just ooh faces and stick figures. That's all I can do. But yeah, no. You mentioned uh, uh, Yoroshika or Yoroshika. I'm not sure
Mm-hmm.
if it's Yoroshika or if it's I don't know,
Yeah, for sure.
but that's another one that like I say it that song it's the only song I know from them, I think, or one of the only songs I know from them, and it's the one about I believe I've heard that it's about them dealing with grief. And I was just like, as someone who within I mean, it's been 8 years since I lost my dad, but like it's one of those things where anytime I hear like a song, read a story that's like about like the kind of the coping of that, it's always kind of it always hits a home for me, you know. And so that
Yeah,
song
for sure.
I love that song. I love that even though I haven't heard much from them, that group is fantastic. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I originally like watched an interview with like the main guy who's behind all the instrumentals and everything. And I was just like, I want to do that. Like, just move to Japan and like make music for someone else and like let them sing everything. I'll just do the rest. But then I like looked into like the industry over there. I was like, nah, I don't think I want to move to the music industry in Japan.
that's the thing. Whenever I see a bunch of people saying like, "Oh, it's so great over there," it's like, no, I'm sure it's great. Like, I'm sure it's fantastic. But it's like, there's the problem is when you idolize it over where you're currently at. Everywhere has issues. There's always
See, I think you got the leg up too because you're like a white foreigner, so they'd be like, "Oh, he's like unique and special," and then like I'm Korean, so they'd be like, "Oh, we hate those guys."
oh Lord. Yeah, see that's it's one of those things I don't think I ever really went through a traditional weeaboo phase. I know I call my group the cloister of weebs, and it's mostly ironic, but I feel like I learned from an early age like it's one of those that you can't like, especially as a white person, you can't like idolize the culture because it's like there's issues just as much as there is issues everywhere
Yeah,
on the planet.
yeah,
It's just that you have to kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like there's a balance I think that needs to be
for
had.
sure. Getting
And
over that like grass is greener on the other side syndrome
exactly.
is pretty hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks who just like refuse to admit it, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you're even slightly criticizing the idol industry. They didn't do nothing wrong." And it's like, yes, they did. The idol industry in Japan sucks. The
Yeah.
music's great, but like the politics and the business side of things are just,
Yeah, dude,
eh.
like the Belmont is 85% Caucasian,
Right.
and when I originally went there, like so many people immediately were like, "Oh, do you like K-pop then? Do you like K-pop?" It was like so many people just asking about K-pop. I was like, "No, I actually don't like K-pop because of the industry and like what they do to like people in that industry and
Right.
encouraging like 15-year-olds to get plastic surgery. I don't think that's super healthy for society." They'd be like, "How dare you?" I'd be like, I'm
Right.
sorry.
It's like
Sorry."
the brains their brains can't like cope with the fact that like they just assume, oh, you must like it because you're Korean. It's like, no, that doesn't mean anything. Just because I'm white doesn't mean I like country. Come on. Like, not suggesting there's a link, but it's a simple, like, what the fuck. But that being said though, like, have you seen? There's an anime that aired last year or the year before. It's semi-recent, called Selection Project.
Yeah, I think I've seen. I'm pretty sure I've seen some of the clips. Is that like the idol show with like guitars and stuff instead?
Kinda. So I mentioned it during. I think it was my guess that insert song. I think you might have been in the back there, but it's an idol series where it's like, it like follows the group of girls who like it's like they enter a reality show like American Idol, but
Oh,
what
gotcha.
the idea is like they have to, leave their families and they have to go to this cabin or whatever, and they like live together and sing together, and it's like a real world American Idol crossover kind of thing.
For
And
sure.
like what the reason why that's like my favorite idol show ever is because they're not afraid to openly criticize the idol industry in Japan.
For sure.
I mean, towards the end, I won't say exactly what happens, but towards the end, they did kind of backtrack a little bit. But like, I was like, okay, that's a little dumb. But they were like, it was like the only show that I've ever seen where they are outright like, hey, this kind of sucks, and y'all need to stop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
I was really proud of them for just even though they backed away a little bit, it was like I was really glad to see that they at least said something,
Yeah.
because so many.
That's why I'm such a huge fan of the Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai.
Right.
Because like that title is so misleading
Oh yeah.
because Because like I think that show is like one of the best about like challenging, like even outside of Japan, but especially like relevant to Japan, like just the challenging like social norms and things that are, you know, not super favorable about certain aspects of that society, you know.
Right. And then, speaking of questionable titles, I gotta bring this up. A Sister's All You Need is one
Oh
that
no.
is, when you hear that title, you're like, oh shit, no, no, get it away from me. And then you watch the first 3 minutes or so, and you're like, oh shit, no, get it away from me. And then you realize that the first 3 minutes are basically an exaggeration of what, because like the whole show it's about creative adults, people who are in their early to mid 20s,
Mm-hmm.
who are professionally writing, or you know, editing or whatever. And so it's basically like a slice of life, like, hey, let's talk about, you know, oh, I'm getting an anime, you know, things like that. And but the problem is the main guy is like, he has that anime trope where it's like, oh, I want a little sister, I don't have one, and I would like one. I don't know why. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's like, so he keeps writing these light novels about characters who have little sisters, and that's where the title comes from. But it's like 95% of it is like, hey, you know, we have our good friends, and we're eating good food, and we're playing board games, and there's a little bit of creativity thrown in there. But it's like nobody would ever get to that if they didn't, you know, pass that first 3 minutes, you know.
For sure.
But I've gotten to the point where at this point, every time I mention it in a panel, they're like, "Ah, we get it," and I'm like, "No, you don't, because you haven't seen it yet." Um, but that being okay, so let's go ahead and move on, because that was actually a really good tangent. I like that. Sometimes the tangents can go out of left field, and it's like, wait, hold on, what happened? But I'm glad that was a really good one. So as a creative person, I would imagine that you have received a fair amount of criticism in your time. Not necessarily criticism, more like advice. I'll use the word advice. Um, do you have a piece of advice that you've been given that you think was the like? If I were to ask you for like your best piece of advice that you've received, what would you say that would be?
Hmm. You know, like I think when it comes to like, because I didn't go to school specifically around like being creative, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with like that end of the spectrum. But like my, you know, my degree and what I, you know, tend to do a lot of for work and what I enjoy doing is more just as much business minded. I think if you're really trying to jump into the music industry though at all, like if you have any hopes of like having any kind of success with music or creative art in general, really, that this advice does stay true. And that's like one of my professors early on, you know, he was talking about the common phrase that a lot of people throw around in the entertainment industry, which is it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. But he made the, you know, addendum to say, you know, that's not quite true. It's not really about who you know, it's about who knows you. So I think that's something that's always stuck with me because it doesn't matter if, you know, like all of the top 50 CMA stars in Nashville, or you know, the top VAs in North America for Crunchyroll and Funimation and same company now, whatever. If you know all of them, it doesn't really matter if you know these people personally, even if you know them personally. Like if they don't really know who you are, they don't know what you're capable of, they don't know like what you can do, then like that connection means nothing in the long run, you know? So it's not just about, you know, networking is such a multi-staged process, and it's really much more of like the entertainment industry than people realize. A lot of people, you know, like people love to give the story. And that's why I loved the voice actors at Anime Austin, that they were very much willing to say like it's not just about like, oh, I'm talented, oh, I'm good, and people recognize that. Like it's so much more. It's so much about like putting yourself in to do the scut work and, you know, like working at a studio and grabbing coffee for everyone for a year, you know, do like just doing things for really cheap or for free, just being, you know, being willing to take the hit, whether that's financially or exposure wise or something, you know, to be able to like make that actual connection, you know. And I think that is so important, that it's not just about like oh, I know these people and I'm friends with them, but like I also have to show them that I'm able to work, that I'm able to do something, that I have value to them over other people. And it feels kind of degrading to be like, well, I need to be seen as valuable, but that's really what it comes down to, is because at the end of the day, a lot of the people in the industry are looking to make some kind of profit off of it, and if you're not able to provide some kind of, unique or marketable value over your competition, then even if you know that person, that connection isn't valued to them as much as someone else who could make them a better profit or be more efficient on their job or something like that. So I think that's a piece of advice that's always resonated with me, is just that, it's not about who you know or what you know, it's about who knows you. So I
That's
think that's something
actually
that I've always really wanted to go for, is just making sure that I'm known for what I do.
right. No, that's fantastic actually, because I've heard that phrase for my entire life, but I've never heard it with that addendum, and it's true. I mean, it's true because like I found, there was a phase in my career where and I hate saying this, but it's true, where I would brag sometimes to some people about, oh, I'm friends with this person on Facebook. Oh, I'm friends with this person on Facebook, and I had to kind of like come to terms with the fact that that doesn't mean shit, really. And so as soon as I kind of realized, like, oh, that like there's no reason to brag about that kind of thing. That's when I started to kind of like realize, oh, like it should actually be the other way around, where people should want to brag about being my friend, kind of, like.
For sure.
But it's like even then, that's a little shallow and selfish, and I don't like that. It's just it's something that I've done a lot of growing over the years, where I've realized like I'm thankful for all of my friends, anybody who's willing to call themselves my friend. But it's just like the thing I think I've come to terms with is like I want to express my admiration for these people. Like I don't
Sure.
I don't necessarily know if we would be compatible as friends, but it's like it's something that like at the very least I want to tell them how much they mean to me, tell them what they've done for me, and then just let the dice fall where they will.
For sure.
Like for example, one thing that like you ever heard of Mega Ran?
I do not believe so.
He's a nerdcore hip hop. Does like a lot of like the nerdy hip hop in that scene.
Gotcha. For sure.
And like I met him at Colossal Con this past year, and I was given, I was able to tell him face to face for the first time like how his music helped me cope from my dad's death, and that I don't know, and I felt a little weird afterwards because I was like, I hope that didn't make him like I hope that didn't put pressure on him, undue pressure. But it's like something that I felt like I had to tell him because it was just something that was on my mind, and I wanted to get it off my chest, and just make
For sure.
make it clear you saved someone. Like I that's what I'll say because it was true. But like, do I would I like to be his friend? Of course, but it's just one of those things where I am content having just expressed what he means to me and then be done with it. And that's the thing that like I think that 21-year-old James probably wouldn't understand as much as I do now that I'm about to be 30. But yeah, so that's really insightful, and I appreciate you talking about that, because that's the kind of thing. Like the reason I asked that question to these guys is because times like this where it's like the advice that you've been given has now been given to both me and to the audience, and something that we never thought about it in that certain way. So I appreciate that.
For sure.
So okay, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. We're gonna talk a little bit
sure.
about some more light topics. Try not to mention my dad's death again. But okay, so we talked a little bit about anime, so I won't go into the huge thing. What is there any anime that you are currently watching that you want to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, we talked a little bit like right before the stream started too, that I picked up Chainsaw Man finally. I was waiting for there to be enough episodes to start binging, but then right after I started it, I got like called in for this interview, and then I've been, life has been rolling since then. But the show that I did make time for throughout all of that was, and unfortunately I've already finished it, so I'm not in the process of watching it anymore, is Bocce the Rock. That was another song that, it wasn't even the opening. I just found like clips of the songs being performed on YouTube, and it kind of flew under my radar because I just saw the cover. I was like, oh, it's another like girl band show, cool, K-On, whatever, nice. But I saw the clips on YouTube, and I was just seeing like all these raving reviews and it shooting up to the top on like my anime list and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a watch, and I immediately fell in love with it. I think it's some of the best music in an anime you'll ever hear. It's honestly some of the most like creative art direction that I've seen. I'm not super visually talented. It's not hard to impress me visually, but I think what they do is really wacky and creative and awesome, and I just love it. It feels like the people who made that show are just like truly passionate about that whole project, and I can like tell that there's a lot of effort and love and like, tears and sweat and I already said effort. Just a lot of like things went into making that show what it was. And I like, yeah, Cyberpunk was good and like Chainsaw Man is good, but a show like that is just on all levels connected with me. And I think for me right now, it's definitely like my number one show of the year, if not like the last decade. Honestly, like it's a show that I would, if you have any inkling of social anxiety or you love music or anything like that, it's a must watch in my opinion.
I am definitely gonna watch more. I saw the first episode a few weeks back, and I wasn't. It wasn't that I didn't want to watch more; it was just the time, But
For sure,
but it's
for
something
sure.
that I have been definitely in my head. It's like as soon as I get a moment where I'm not doing anything, I'm gonna pick
Yeah.
it back up because it looks really good. Just I've seen all the memes and stuff, and just by the memes alone, I was like, okay, this might be a choice pick, but yeah, no. So that being said, in that same vein, if you were forced to watch only one anime series for the rest of your life, you were stuck on an island, and you only had one anime series, what would you pick?
See, like here's the strategy with this one, right? If you have to watch one show for the rest of your life, it doesn't have to be the best or most entertaining show. It just needs to be something long enough that you won't get bored. So I'd probably pick like something from like the big three, probably like Naruto because I grew up with it. Because like there's not only like there's all that filler material that you could like finally go back and watch. There's just like there's like over 1,000 episodes between Naruto and Shippuden combined. So like if you ever get bored, you can just like randomly click on an episode, and chances are you haven't seen that episode in a long time, so it'll still feel fairly fresh. I think I could last a good like 10 years if I only had like that show. Versus like if I had to watch like, Bocce or like Cyberpunk or something, you like have 12 to 24 episodes and you run out really quickly. It's like, oh dude, I've already watched it through like 4 times now and it's only been a month. But let's look at Naruto, dude. It takes like a year to get through,
That's
like, so.
valid. Yeah. No, I appreciate that because one thing with Naruto that I have always had an issue with is that I I grew up with the dub, right? And I have not finished Shippuden because I just there's something in my brain that refuses to let me watch the sub of Naruto, and so I'm eagerly waiting for Hulu to just finish putting the rest of the dub up so I
Oh
can
no.
start it because
You
I don't
gotta
want.
start buying the box sets, bro.
Right, I'm gonna have to just get the Blu-rays because like that's the only way it's gonna work. Because I'm sitting here like, man, like I could start it now, but then as I know that as soon as I hit like episode 250 or whatever, I'm gonna run out of content, and I'm not gonna want to, I'm gonna want to switch to the sub, and I'm like, it's what I did with One Piece, where I caught up with the dub. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna start the sub now, and now I'm stuck on the sub because I can't go back, and it's like, fuck. Ikixon asked, did you like the Kid Naruto or Shippuden more?
Cool. Like Shippuden is chill. Like I think it does a lot of cool things. There's definitely some like really iconic moments from it, especially because like it was at that point I was starting to mature and actually understand conceptually a lot of things. But to me, just for the nostalgia value and like being an OG show, late nights on Toonami, like OG Naruto, like first arc, that like Kid Naruto, that's the way to go for me. That show is just so classic to me. That was the first anime I like really watched before I knew what anime was. Before I kind of took a dive into like actual anime. Like, it was just, to me it was just another Saturday morning cartoon based, or really Friday night cartoon kind of thing. So
Yeah, no, that's valid. Yeah, there's not much in my head anyway. There's not much that makes me that's like the better nostalgia than like watching the Sasuke retrieval arc. Like there's just something about that arc for me that like it always just it's just so raw. Like it's one of those things where like I always just found it so cool when I was a kid, and like I think there are some moments in Shippuden that like what I've seen anyway, because I think I only saw like the first 50 or 60 episodes, where I was like, okay, it's continuing on that track.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's like going back to the OG. There that last arc is just.
Yeah, I think Shippuden is definitely like one of those shows that's like purely like good for moments, but not like sustained watching as
Right.
much. You know, it's like you got those like clips on YouTube. They're like, yeah, I want to go back and watch that, but I wouldn't rewatch the entirety of Shippuden. But like, you asked me to start watching Naruto, like original Naruto again. Yeah, I'd
Oh
watch
yeah,
that in a heartbeat, bro.
because Chunin exams too. Now that I think about it, Chunin exams arc was fan fucking tastic.
Everything about Naruto is just everything I wanted to be as a kid. I was like, yeah, I want
Right.
to be a ninja and be badass and throw like shuriken around and jump off of trees and the kids running down the hallway to lunch with their arms behind their back and stuff. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's me now.
Yeah, no, now it's unironically cool. It's just like, hey, whatever. Okay, so same question, but for video games. What would you, if you had to pick one video game for the remainder of your life, what would it be?
One video game to play for the rest of my life. Do I have internet?
Okay. Here's what I'll say. Pick two games. One that you need internet for, and one that you don't.
Okay, yeah, the easy one is just for internet. I just pick Counter Strike because that's the game I've sunk the most hours into. Um, I'm a big comp shooter guy. That's about all I play is like Overwatch and Counter Strike at this point.
Right.
A little bit of Rocket League on the side sometimes too. Um, I would probably pick like Sekiro or Ghost of Tsushima. Either
Something
one
that
of
you can't
those.
beat.
Yeah, well, no, I've gotten through both of those games. I haven't gotten through Elden Ring yet.
Oh.
That's the one that I still haven't beat. I got through like the second boss, and then I just kind of was like, oh, I can't. Like my mental health is going to suffer.
I'm a lost cause when it comes to Souls likes because like
Yeah.
I've only played. Okay, I guess technically speaking, Jedi Fallen Order is a Souls like. I don't see how it is, but apparently they count it as one. But besides for that, I've only played approximately 10 hours of Bloodborne, and I've beaten one boss. So, I remember early last year I was streaming Bloodborne. Hickson was actually there; they can attest to that. And
Gotcha.
I streamed for like 2 or 3 sessions of like 3 hours each, and I got to the first boss and beat it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this away and never touch it again. But yeah, that's valid. I do want to play Elden Ring, and I want to play Sekiro and all them.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
I mean, if I had to have like a fallback on those, then maybe like Halo. Like any of the Halos are good too. Just like that's a game I grew up on as well. And,
Right.
Like all of any of three of the campaigns were fine for the original trilogy. They're all equally masterpieces to me. That was like my introduction to like classical or orchestral music in general. Was like I was a huge Marty O'Donnell fan for the longest time, and like I have done a couple like film scories type projects before, and like he's always one of my go-to references.
do
So
do
for
you
sure.
I'm curious. I don't know a whole lot about it, but like, do you, from your perspective, like, do you like the later Halos?
Um, I think Halo 4 is kind of slept on as far as like campaign goes. I think it was really interesting the direction they took it. I can see where like classic Halo fans didn't like it because, I have always loved like a good narrative and depth to a character, and like after 3 games of seeing Master Chief run around just be a blank slate of like violence and badassery, it was kind of time for a switch up. I get that. I think Halo 5 was atrocious. Halo Infinite's campaign was a step back in the right direction. The campaign was pretty good. The gameplay of the campaign in Halo Infinite was not my favorite.
Okay.
I feel like that game kind of fell flat in the gameplay department. Narratively, it was also very good. But yeah, I think Halo 4, unfortunately, it's just been like that created such a rift in the community because it was like you're taking this character who's like so much about like I have zero emotion. I'm literally a trained like child soldier in a suit that's like indestructible, running around just murdering aliens too. I am now a broken soldier with PTSD, and my single connection to any form of humanity just like sacrificed yourself to save me from a nuke. What do I do? So It was like a huge switch up, and a lot of people were like, "I don't like this," you know. And then like to me, I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, "Yeah, that's like realistically, if you were Master Chief or someone like Master Chief existed, this is about the point where you'd start seeing that breakdown. You'd
Right.
see him starting to fall apart."
I,
So
I want to get into him honestly, but um, I have Game Pass and I almost got the Master Chief Collection, but it's so massive in file size that like I don't have enough space on my computer, so I'm just waiting for the day whenever I just decide, okay, I'm just gonna buy an Xbox and just play it on the Xbox like it was
for sure.
like God intended, you know. But
Yeah.
but that being said, okay, so last question that I have for you, and then I'll let you go. If you could be a dinosaur, which dino would you soar?
Man, I don't even remember all the dinosaurs. It's funny too because when we were doing like loadout in the staff room too, I was like legitimately talking about how like chickens are the closest relative to dinosaurs that we still like have today.
Right.
It's like I was like, man, if I was trying to impress a date, I'd be like, yeah, I'm eating some dinosaur right now. It's like just eating a chicken breast or some shit, you know?
Just like,
Like
imagine like a raptor that's just that size, and it just starts nibbling on your like your Achilles heel. It's just like, oh shit, get off me.
No, I don't remember like a lot of dinosaurs' names. What's the one with the like long neck? Is that the Stegosaurus?
Bronto, I think. Is it?
Oh, okay.
I don't even know.
I don't remember.
I should have prepared for the types of dinosaurs, but I was just like, I need a light question to end things on. So I was like, dinosaurs.
I think I'd be the long neck one just because like he seems chill.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
He seems like he just like aloof, like walking around eating some plants, like
right. Yeah.
can casually stomp on a T-Rex if he has to, like it's whatever.
Yeah, and plus it was the main. I think one of them was the main character, Land Before Time, for 20 years. So
Yeah, yeah.
there you go.
Exactly.
All right, cool. Well, I will let you go now. Thank you so much for being here. I will give
Thank you for having me.
I will give you the floor. What if you could promote something, plug, tell them where they can find you, all that jazz.
Yeah, I mean, you got my YouTube channel and Discord on the screen right now. If you want to like chat, feel free to add me on Discord. I'm fairly active there. I'll be kind of AWOL for a couple weeks here, but then after that, like I'll be back on that grind usually. I mean, if you want a social, just reach out to me on Discord, and I can like give you any of the socials that I have as well. Not my social security though. Other than that, yeah, like I'd appreciate a subscribe if you guys go to the Bow channel. Stay tuned. There's music planned to be released. It's just it's a process. It's what it is. But
Right.
thank you for everyone who's already seen any of it and stuff like that. I mean, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's been pretty chill so far. So
Yeah, no.
hopefully I'll see you at more cons and stuff like that. We'll be trying to make the trips down and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making the time. I'm going to let you go, but before I do, everybody in chat who is not currently a member of the Cloister, there is the link for that if you'd like to join the Cloister and hang out with both ZuuS and myself. We are going to have more events going on in the near future on the Cloister. Actually, tomorrow night, I'm just going to say this, tomorrow night, we are, I think about 7 p.m., I think it's 7 p.m. Central, we are doing Guess That OP, the digital edition. So if you want to come be a part of that, we're going to be streaming it through the Discord exclusive. So, but yeah, no, thank you again for being here. I appreciate you. And I will, next episode, we will be, I do have the guest lined up, but I'm not going to announce it yet. But that's going to be probably on the 10th of February. So stay tuned for that. All my socials, you'll see the announcement whenever I make it. But in the meantime, thank you all for watching. I will see all of you in the next one. Y'all stay pixelated and have a good night.